I want to bring a rural dynamic into the conversation, and I would note, I believe it was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that the insurance industry and others declared that auto theft was a crisis. Yet back, I know it was motion 167 in the 42nd Parliament on rural crime, talked extensively about rural auto thefts, and although you both noted kind of in the periphery of your remarks about the dynamics associated with export versus more domestic challenges, and I know chop shops is a big issue in rural Canada. So I'm just curious if you can comment about how we can crack down to make sure that it's not just the vehicles that are being tracked down, but also if they're being sold for parts and broken down in that way, because that's obviously a significant part of the conversation.
Thank you for the question. So yes, there is a small percentage of the vehicles that are actually being chopped up for parts. I think, the most significant is the catalytic converter. And so the catalytic converter has precious metals embedded in it, and when the value of those metals goes up, those become more valuable. And so we've seen thefts of vehicles to be chopped up for parts, or we've seen just the catalytic converter really cut off the vehicles, and we've seen mass incidences of that where they will go to leasing companies or dealerships and just cut off all the catalytic converters. I believe it's the province of Manitoba had implemented a law that has been quite effective there that we would encourage the other provinces to look at. And really what it is it's akin to a know your vehicle bill of sale kind of documentation. So another analogy would be a pawn shop. When you go to sell something at a pawn shop, you have to show ownership. You have to show some details around the vehicle and how it got chopped up for parts. That's being applied to salvage, to the salvage industry, wherein if somebody drives up with a truck of catalytic converters, they have to have a bill of sale for each one.
If I could, and I apologize, it's we only have a short period of time, although I would welcome you all. Please feel free to follow up with the committee if you have specific recommendations or further evidence you'd like to submit. And note in those submissions that it can be distributed and made public as well. I've heard from a host of constituents. In fact, I have an email in front of me about how a constituent talks about a known criminal attempting to steal this individual's truck, stole his neighbor's truck in a rural area. They had camera evidence, but it wasn't seen to be quite enough, and the talks about this whole just a reign of terror of these known petty thieves that are stealing vehicles. And you talked about in your opening statements about the cost that this has, and that it's not a victimless crime. Not only does it terrify and victimize and traumatize in many cases the individuals who have seen significant violations, but also this is a significant impact on the cost of living. Insurance rates are not included in the inflationary index, yet we're seeing significant increases in the cost of insurance, which is, of course, an essential part of anybody in our country, a large country, and being from a rural area, we don't got public transit, so you have to own a vehicle. So I'm just wondering if you can share with the committee how we reconcile that there's an incentive to make sure that vehicles are not stolen. There's an incentive to make sure that these thieves, in many cases on bail, in some cases stolen a vehicle, get arrested, and the same day go back and steal. I could point to a number of examples. Same day they're back out on the street stealing more vehicles. What's the picture here to make sure that we can deal with it so that ultimately Canadians can save insurance costs? The cost of vehicles over the last couple of years up 20%. That's a massive cost and contributor to inflation, not tracked according to the government's numbers. But I'd like to hear your feedback about how we can stop this to ensure that ultimately Canadians aren't having to pay the price for the host of circumstances that are leading to massive increase in costs.
Thank you very much for the great question. So in terms of the cost, perhaps I'll just start there first. $1.2 billion last year, and this is in addition to a number of other costs that we've seen increasing across the auto insurance industry. Our vehicles are all becoming much more expensive to repair, and so the industry did look at ways that we could mitigate the impact of this on our own, prior to, of course, the great collaboration that we're seeing now. And so some of the ways that we did that, we incentivized the installation of aftermarket tracking devices so that when your vehicle is stolen, we can see where it is, we can get it back for you. That, of course, will have a reduction in cost. These can be upwards of $500 to install, and we've been, a number of insurers have been waiving that fee or incentivizing folks to do it, or not charging the surcharge you may have to pay if you have a high risk vehicle. So that's some ways that we're trying to incentivize. We're also making sure that we get out consumer information to customers at the point of sale, including, you might want to install a bar on your steering wheel. You might want to put your key in a Faraday bag, and we've been incentivizing giving those away as well. So we are very much trying to do what we can on our end to incentivize and limit the impacts on theft. I think from what we can do altogether, again, it's not just going to be sort of one government and one solution, but with the federal government's action plan, we do implore you to look at all options available to you, from stiffer penalties, resourcing prosecution, reprioritizing CVSA towards auto theft, the 72-hour rule. Those are critical. Provincial, investing in enforcement teams, and revinning. And I'll stop there because I see we're at time.